Bishop Jakes, I love TD Jakes.
Yep.
He says it best about being a disruptor.
We are disruptive over here.
I'm
Absolutely.
okay. I am here to disrupt the dysfunction.
Yeah.
Therapists and doctors have officially entered the chat regarding Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and it has been going crazy. I just wanted to come back on and give you a full picture instead of just an opinion. Not only that, she has been in the comments moving like the Matrix, dodging some comments, meanwhile challenging others. And it seems like there's a lot of defensiveness going on. So before we get into her clapbacks, along with her latest interview where she said, if one person can touch the hem of my robe, ooh, I want to play this video from licensed therapist and Dr. Raquel Martin, who is speaking not just from opinion, but from real experience in the same industry. And feel free to fast forward. I've left chapter marks below so you can skip ahead if you've already heard this.
Hello, my name is Dr. Raquel Martin. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, professor of sciences, and podcast host who specializes in Black health and well-being. And I want to break down a clip from the Joe Budden podcast featuring someone who presents herself as Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. But before we dive in, I want to make something incredibly clear. Having a doctorate does not mean someone is a licensed mental health professional. You can have a doctorate in literature and be unlicensed, and you are still a doctor. You can have a doctorate in education and hold an LPC, being a licensed professional counselor, and you are a licensed mental health professional, and you are still a doctor, but your doctorate is not in psychology. When evaluating anyone's credentials, it's really critical to look at two things: what their doctorate is actually in, and whether they hold a relevant clinical license. In this case, the person you're about to hear from is unlicensed. I'm going to break down why that matters and why this particular message is harmful, especially to the Black community that she claims to be serving and that I actually serve.
A license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
That is incredibly misleading. Yes, you do need a license to bill insurance, but that is not why licensure exists. Licensure protects you. It means I have completed specific education and supervised clinical hours, passed rigorous exams, and I'm accountable to a regulatory board. If I breach confidentiality, if I cross ethical boundaries or harm you, you have somewhere to file a complaint and be sure that I'm held accountable. A license is not paperwork just for billing. It's a consumer protection. When someone drops or loses or no longer has a license, they're not solely avoiding the insurance hassle. They're also removing your recourse if something goes terribly wrong.
Not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science Rules and Regulations and Ethics. And so it just opened up a whole nother, floor in industry for me.
And she's also saying this like it's a good thing. I want to state something really important. Ethics codes exist to protect you from exploitation and boundary violation and providers practicing outside of their competence. When someone celebrates being free from ethical oversight, I want you to think of that as a red flag, a flashing one. It's a warning sign because those rules exist because real harm happens when they're not in place. So celebrating that you don't have to be accountable to that should be concerning to you.
As a therapist, two things: you can obviously make what you deserve, because therapy is real. We're giving everything we have in there, and we're unpacking shit, and we're helping you process through things. So it's not us sitting there, well, if you're an effective therapist, saying, tell me more. You should be unpacking, and you should be able to take somebody and drive with them to their goal.
And here's another thing. She keeps calling herself a therapist, and in most states, that's actually illegal without a license. You cannot legally use the title therapist or provide psychotherapy without licensure. What she's describing now is coaching, and coaching and therapy are fundamentally different. Coaches help with goals and accountability. Therapists are trained to diagnose and treat mental health conditions, trauma and depression and suicidality and psychosis. If someone with untreated bipolar disorder or PTSD thinks they're getting therapy from a coach, they're going to be seriously harmed. These are actual conditions that go undiagnosed and untreated, especially within the Black community.
My clients, the truth is that in order to bill insurance, I have to diagnose you. And you only get about 6 weeks. In order for me to get 6 more weeks approval, guess what?
This frames diagnosis as something imposed on you solely for insurance purposes, and that's backwards. A diagnosis isn't a billing trick. It's clinically meaningful information that guides treatment. And the 6 weeks claim is also not accurate across the board. Now, I'm not saying that we should not be addressing insurance, because we need to rise up when it comes to insurance authorizations. Like we very much do. That is a different video. But insurance authorizations vary widely by plan, diagnosis, and medical necessity. Many people receive months of years of covered therapy. And she's also making it sound like licensure forces short-term diagnosis-driven care. And that's just simply not how it works as someone who is actually a licensed mental health professional.
Majority of people who know that in order to bill insurance as a therapist or a physician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, you have to diagnose. So what do they rather do? Pay out of pocket.
That's what I
And
do.
so when I realized that, I thought, well, okay, it may create a gap within our community, our Black community, who can't afford health care or afford mental health services.
I hear the concern and the access problem is real. Her solution, unregulated, unlicensed coaching, isn't the answer. And there are a wealth of licensed Black therapists, he, she, and they, Black-owned practices, sliding scale clinics, community mental health centers doing this work with their licensure intact, keeping their credentials because their clients deserve protection. The solution to healthcare access gaps isn't removing safeguards. It's expanding access to regulated care. It's providing more scholarships for people like us to get the training necessary. It's more support group. It's actually mutual aid, but it's not what she is stating.
I'm in private practice. I make much more money. It allows me to have more leverage and really be hands-on with my clients. I'm not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science rules and regulations and ethics.
And I want to be honest about what's really happening here because the messaging is awful to me. The pitch to potential clients is, I can give you more personalized care. The pitch to herself is, I make significantly more money and I'm not bound by any kind of oversight. And those are two entirely different things. And when your financial incentive is disconnected from professional accountability, that is a conflict of interest. However, she is not bound by anything when it comes to conflicts of interest because the only thing that she is bound by is the limits of her own ethics and morality. Look, coaching has real value. And y'all know I hold real coaches down. If you want goal accountability, a coach can help, but coaching is not therapy, and no coach worth their salt will say anything other. If you're dealing with mental health, like anxiety and depression and trauma and these other things, you deserve a licensed mental health professional whose conduct is subject to oversight. And I know it sounds like gatekeeping, but it's truly basic safety. And it's important in communities where access has been denied historically. The answer has never been fewer protections for us as Black people. It has always been more access to regulated, accountable care because we deserve that. And I also want to address that it took me some time to think about doing this video because as a Black woman, it's just been really, really tough for us as Black women. And as someone who states that they advocate for the Black community, he, she, and they creates programs for the Black community, is the founder of the largest mental health and education community for Black women in the country. I totally understand where we're at when I'm holding my programs and things of that nature. But I do want you to know that I always state that my Black love is also accountability. And being Black does not mean that when I'm dealing with other Black people, I'm pro-Blackness no matter what you do. That's just never going to be the case. So I don't want you to, I don't want to hear anything about like, oh, this is an attack on a Black woman. It's not solely, it was the aspect of supporting Black people was never about supporting just Black people no matter what they do. It's supporting Black people in love and also having accountability. And these messages are wrong, and they have been wrong, and they have consistently been wrong. And and as someone who has the size of a platform that I have, I think it's important for me to share psychoeducation and information because I understand the significance of it. And I understand the significance of it because I'm actually working in this field. This is a really harmful message. And I do understand that there's this aspect of like things are entertainment, but these things are harming us. And I know they harm us because I'm actually working in the field. I am a doctor who creates content, but I do want to state that when I say the titles in the beginning of my video, I'm actively doing that work. I'm actively conducting research on Black identity development and mental health and well-being of the Black community. I am actively practicing as a licensed clinical psychologist and see patients weekly and have been seeing patients for over a decade. I am actively a professor and working with youth. I am actively a health educator when it comes to training clinicians in cultural humility so that they can serve us better. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of individuals will say it's not that deep or state that it's just entertainment is because one, you think mental health in psychology is just folk wisdom, and it's not, it's a science. And two, you guys are very insulated from the field that you claim to be discussing because you don't work in that field and you haven't in quite some time. But as someone who walks into the offices and sees the clients and goes to the talks and does the community programs, we are struggling. And these little entertainment only pieces that are spreading misinformation, you're doing more harm for the Black community than you know. And the reason why you don't know is because you're so insulated from the Black community. You just sit in front of these mics and you make all these money and you do all these Patreons and you wear these crazy hats and you do all that. But I would actually say I don't see these kind of places as pro-Black. I don't. And the only way you would know that is if you did the work that I do. And you're never going to, because 1, you're not qualified. And 2, it would break you down. It will break you down every single day. I've never heard so many people saying licenses and degrees didn't matter until more Black people started getting licenses and degrees.
Now, this shifts the conversation a little differently when it's coming from someone who actually works in the field being discussed and less from opinion-based. So what are your thoughts on what Dr. Raquel Martin had to say below? Please make sure you go give her a follow. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now let's talk about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's responses and clapback to some of the people who are reacting the way they are. Some of these comments she's leaving are giving low functioning, in her words, not mine, or I'd actually rather say low vibration. And as a matter of fact, I even looked up that word because what does that even mean and where did that even come from?
Give me a clean definition of high functioning women.
Okay, I'm gonna go first because I coined high functioning, low functioning, and high value. I coined that on Nick Cannon's show. And I had trademarked it and coined it years before that. I just happened to say it on Nick's show and it went viral and blew up. And then all of the blogs and everyone start using high functioning, low functioning, and using my rubric to measure whether somebody was high functioning, low functioning, or high valued. And then I'll let Sarah explain what her take is on it. For me, the functionality that I'm talking about is how well do you function relationally within yourself and in a relationship with the person. Meaning, high functioning is just a person who says, I can identify my emotion before I get into my feelings, because feelings cause problems, emotions don't. So I can identify how I feel angry. Okay, I can process before I produce. Let me process what anger looks like before I produce a reaction that does not provide a resolve, because high functioning people think and speak to provide resolve. Low functioning people react to create more impairment and more problem to the already existing problem.
Yeah, this is not funny, but this takes me back to when Imani was saying this on the Patreon.
3 people clearly here saying that words have definitions. You're saying to them those words can change and get new meanings.
That may be true, but you heard Dr. Bryant say she coined the term. So we're going to go with her meaning in this video, because she is in the comments calling someone Miss Low Functioning. She is giving comparisons to Jesus. And in a recent interview on The Basement with Tim Ross, she had this to say.
Not people. This is why I say the deep has a certain level of God peace and ability to not personalize anything. I don't care what anybody thinks or feels about me. My obedience is to God. And if I change one person's life, if one person touches the hem of my gown, guess what? I did my job.
Absolutely.
In this interview, she has a few comparisons like that, as well as a lot of chosen one undertones, carrying the cross, disciples betraying. There's just quite a few things, as well as her receiving criticism is a proof of her calling. But as the comments started pouring in with more criticism, one user went on to say, I love this sister, not sure why she gets so much hate. Dr. Bryant responded with, same reason why Jesus was hated and was chosen to carry his cross to crucifixion, just for the folks that crucified him to witness his resurrection. Love you back. In another post, a user even kind of led with a bit of a compliment, if you will, and said, this is awesome, but get your license, please. And Dr. Bryant replied with, thank you. I don't need a license for what I do. You all need to educate yourself before telling someone who's successful and the most sought out in their field what they should do. Maybe you should book a session and I can educate you. Now, her sessions are not cheap. I'm just going to warn y'all now, okay? Another user stated, please stop. A license is needed for the protection of the client. Without it, your client is not protected by law. You're not a therapist. You are a life/relationship coach, which is the biggest scam. Stop talking before you get sued. And Dr. Bryant did not let that go. She clapped back with, Reread what you just commented, Miss Low Functioning. See, that's why I had to go look up that word because I needed to understand how she was meaning this. I don't think it means what she thinks it means, especially coming from a psychology expert. She goes on to say, I don't need a license for what I do. I'm a psychology expert and life coach. I'm not a therapist. It says so in my bio. Now, that is indeed true. I showed y'all that in the last video. You're so concerned with my education and license, yet you can't read or write. Huh? How does she know that she can't read or write? Why insult the person? Some of y'all just have a problem with beautiful, successful women. Your hate won't change it. You can't have what God has gifted me. Nothing can shift or change that but him. Now go get some help. I mean, that can be true as well, but I don't think that that's the issue here for the most part. I mean, licensed therapists and doctors have been coming onto social media one after the other, trying to explain the dangers of this whole shtick, her whole life coach, psychology expert, her branding, her wording. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like to check credentials. If I vet someone's work on Yelp before I get my nails done or hair done, or even eat at an establishment, heck, even put my car in the shop, don't you think you need to vet your life coaches, psychology experts, and doctors? Because you're not about to have me out here all willy-nilly, all gas, no brakes, okay? So for clarity, this isn't about sending negative energy towards the beautiful Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. We, the internet and the content streets, just need to know if it's performative or if it's for play. Then we know how to move with you, right? I mean, with the JBP, right? We know it's performative. We know it's COE. We know how they move. So we know how to receive the content. And don't think we didn't notice Dr. Mark Lamont Hill slip out early, because that would have been good to see two doctors having a dialogue on the JBP. As a matter of fact, his office hours is live right now, and it looks like he has Dr. Raquel Martin on talking about this very topic. So I am wrapping this up so I can go tune in and get more informed on this conversation. All I know is between her wanting to be a disruptor or whatever she called it, she is out there clapping back at people in the comments talking about they can't read or write. She's on this interview talking about...
See, the Bible says that few are chosen. Right? Let me say it better. No, it actually says many are chosen, but few answer the call.
That's right. Many are called, few are chosen. Zilpah and Bilhah
and who had 700 wives and 300 concubines?
Yes.
If you had 700 wives, why did you need 300 side chicks? Because a concubine, you need 300 side chicks.
Exactly.
Concubines, if you got 700 wives,
Exactly.
I could only imagine that one...
Right now, the only thing she's being a disruptor of are words. After hearing Dr. Raquel Martin's take, do you think Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is misunderstood, or is she strategically reframing the conversation, especially in this new interview, if you had a chance to watch it? And do you think there is a misunderstanding between coaching and therapy, or are the lines being blurred intentionally? And what are your thoughts on her responding to commenters and criticizing them? Drop your thoughts below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You can also become a supporter of yours truly, Chatterboxx, and let's talk about it in the comments.